Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable parliamentarians, it's truly an honor to be here and be able to speak in front of you about very important issues in our panel. And I'd like to thank Mr. Pittenger and this organization for being so open with Romanian and with so many Romanian parliamentarians, member of the House or of the Senate, who are together with us present here and talk about important issues related to global issues. Well, I'd start by saying that I find so many similarities between the stories our distinguished panelists talked earlier on in what communism and terror and autocratic regimes may impose and what, how we remember this. Because we Romanians, we really have memories with this. I see my friends here, members of the parliament, we are in the 40s, 50s, but we still spend some time, 5, 7, 10 years in communism. So my first 9 years were in communism. And I remember a story from which I was 6 or 7 years old. My parents were teachers in a small city near Bucharest. And the expression of freedom in our house were when my parents were going in the kitchen upstairs and they were listening to a broadcasting from Radio Free Europe, and they were listening to the real news. And I didn't understand what they were doing there because they didn't stay with me. They went upstairs, they closed the door, and at some point they tried to explain me how dangerous it would have been if I would talk with my fellow people in the kindergarten or in the first or second class of the school about the fact that they were listening to the radio. And I remember how hard it was for me to understand what it is about and to understand now, when I look back, to see that the expression of freedom and the connection to freedom for them in that communist times were just to listen to real news. And I remember the terror and their expression in the faces when they were telling me that this is extremely important, and if I would say something, it would have consequences. Because in Romania, what you explained earlier happened in Romania. People stayed in jail for years and years, or our elite and was persecuted by communists, and we had 50 years of communism. And now we go on the bright side because Romania is a democracy. We have already 30 years of democracy. We are now a member of EU. We are a member of NATO. We transformed ourselves from ashes. And now we are one of the key countries on southern flank, and we have the democracy, and basically we know very well how to protect it because we have some lifetime experience knowing what communism really is. Well, saying this, I would talk a little bit about Europe. I would bring Europe into picture in this panel because you spoke about China. I would speak about what's going on in Europe, and I would talk about the case, Schengen Agreement. Schengen Agreement, maybe for some of you, is not very well known. Schengen Agreement is the basis for which we have free movement of people, free movement of capital, free movement of goods in Europe. It's called Schengen because it's an agreement that was forged in 1985 by 5 countries in a small city in Luxembourg. And that was the basis of, let's say, beginning of all the good things that happen in Europe. Because after signing this agreement, we had great economic development of tourism, this visa policy, everything grew. It was a very positive story of success. What does Schengen mean? Schengen comes from a castle in Luxembourg. Some Germans say it comes from the German word shine, and some others say it comes from reed water, so swamp. Where did Schengen go? Now Schengen is in trouble. Is in trouble because it needs reform, because it needs to reform itself, because several member states already use their borders instead of lifting the borders, and that's a problem within the EU. So they don't basically respect the treaty that the borders are free. And there are 3 countries that are not yet members of Schengen, although they respect all the criteria to be member of Schengen for the last 12 years. Those 3 countries are Romania, Bulgaria, and Cyprus. I will speak today especially about Romania and Bulgaria because they are tied up together. And for Romania and Bulgaria that entered EU together in 2007 is extremely important and is an essential objective to join Schengen. And it was and it is an essential objective to join Schengen now. Paradoxically, these 3 countries that are not members in Schengen are the exact 3 countries which do not have visa waiver, EU member states. So this is even more important because the not being member of visa waiver overlaps with not being members of Schengen. Well, this is a question of basically of reforming EU institutions, of thinking of change in Europe. Because when you have a treaty that doesn't function, when you have something that doesn't function, you should really change. And member states should really act accordingly. And Romania and Bulgaria, which are ready, and they prove they are effectively ready since 2011. And in 2022, we also have a second technical European Commission visit that proved again that we are ready. We should not be left out. We are, and this is important for regular Romanians, regular Bulgarians, and they witness it every day. We have 4 or 5 days. Our truckers have to stay 4 or 5 days in a queue at the border. They are not in the same position with any other industry in Europe. And of course, there are, the impact is on economy, is on tourism as well. I made a calculation of what were the losses for the Romanian transport industry for not being part of Schengen in the last 11 years. And it's 16.6 billion of losses for Romania. 16.6 billion, it's more than what we get as grants in the RRF program from the EU. So it's huge. If you count this Bulgaria on, you get really high numbers and you see how our economies were disadvantaged for not being part of Schengen. We have here Bulgarians MPs here with us. We also have the minister, the Bulgarian minister that was in Bulgaria in 2011 when they successfully completed their evaluation as well for Schengen. Why do I make this case for Schengen? I make this case because in the last council, when it was the first time when Romania tabled a vote for Schengen in 12 years, Romania was refused. I'm not mentioning now who, everybody knows who did not accept Romania, who did not accept Bulgaria. And I'm not mentioning because it's not important. Several EU countries at the time opposed this for internal reasons, for political reasons. But now, when we judge the threats, when we judge the fact that Romania and Bulgaria are on the flank, that we have a war very close to our border, that the world is changing, we have to think that the EU has to change as well accordingly, and we have to do something. If we talk about the extension of the European Union, about the enlargement, if we talk about the fact that global circumstances press for an enlargement, we need the enlargement at Schengen at the same time, and we need the reform of it, and also the extension of it with these 3 countries which are left out. Accession into Schengen for Romania and Bulgaria is not, I'm arguing, it's not a secondary, it's not a minor issue, it's not technical, and it's not regional. We have to take into account all the hybrid threats in the southern flank and Black Sea region. So if we take all this into account, if we take into account that Romania has a super election year next year, 4 rounds of election, in which present government, which is a government formed coalition from socialists and liberals, conservatives, we have to keep this flag because we are Europeans, we are a key NATO ally, we are a predictable and loyal ally both for US and EU, and we have to solve this matter somehow, and I want to raise awareness on this matter. I want to raise awareness on this present US administration, to look better into it, to see its importance, its magnitude for Romania and Bulgaria, given the circumstances. To see the fact that the Parliament recommended our accession, that the European Commission recommended our accession, and I hope to see the positive light. And the positive light, time is of the essence because it has to happen in the next 6 months. And I have positive insights from the last Council of the European Union, and I hope this decision will be made for Europe, for Romania, for Bulgaria, for the region, for Europe, and also for the transatlantic relation, because it's also important in terms of security and stability to preserve the fact that Romania and Bulgaria are a pillar of stability in the region, and we preserve it by showing also to regular Romanians and Bulgarians that they can have the benefit of being members of the European Union and benefit being members of Schengen. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. Thank you.